Holy shit. Shocker, The Marvels is exactly what everyone thought it would be. A disaster in nearly every conceivable way a Hollywood production could go wrong. It's a film that's been blatantly mutilated in the editing room and has become something of a Frankenstein's monster of a movie. I saw it compared to the theatrical cut of Justice League, and yeah, I can see that. That's how rough it gets. It's so poorly paced and edited, it's like the movie can't wait to get this over with. It comes off like it's embarrassed of its own existence. Performances from most of the experienced actors on screen are flat and uninspired. The dialogue is embarrassing. Characters' choices come off forced or contrived, the lead characters' backgrounds are underdeveloped, and the chemistry between the actors is okay at times, but the characters themselves are never worthy of our admiration or emotional investment. It exists because it must. For the MCU machine and Disney Financial clearly said it's not worth the tax write-off, or the embarrassment to the company to shelve it. So delay until it finally has to hit theaters. This is as vacuous as it gets. The film itself was something the studio clearly had no faith in after its conception. Multiple delays and reshoots for various reasons cemented it as a troubled production, and you can see it, hear it. And there's a point in the movie where it's so shitty you can almost smell it. Or maybe that was the one other guy in my theater, I really can't be sure.
Between the anchovies and the garlic, my breath's gonna smell like Ursula's box.
There's a point where Brie Larson's wig is so apparent, you question if any of the film you've watched is from the first shoot, or if it's entirely built off the multiple reshoots. And to top this disastrous production and year for the MCU, The Marvels is going to be the worst performing film in MCU history. You know those times when you were 100% certain about something? Something you knew so profoundly in the very core of your being that it gave you confidence to speak as freely as you wanted? The anticipation for the I told you so moment building, and you sit back and smile just waiting for it to arrive. Well, that moment is here, as The Marvels finally released in theaters after not one, not two, not three, but 4 release date changes.
Oh my God.
Or was it 5? You know what? Better question. Doesn't matter. Oh my, this just in, we have behind the scenes footage of Kevin Feige pitching The Marvels to Disney and how he's gonna make it.
Chicken placenta, Worcestershire. Whoever named this could go shit in a hat. A Dijon, microdose with some acid.
Today's sponsor, Keeps, is a subscription service that helps men, well, keep their hair. They offer clinically proven treatments that help combat hair loss. It's a convenient and affordable way for men to treat their male pattern baldness from the comfort of their home without ever visiting a doctor's office or pharmacy. It ships right to your door in discreet packaging. Know how I know? Because this is what they sent it in, this box. See? Keeps. Proof's in the pudding. Now, I got the thickening shampoo because I'm doing all right, but, you know, prefer having healthy locks if I can help it. You know what I'm saying. According to clinical studies, treatment offered by Keeps are 90% effective at treating hair loss and can increase hair growth by up to 35%. Keeps keeps it personal because everyone's treatment plan will look different. Your plan is unique to you and recommended by a licensed medical provider. Whether you're looking to prevent hair loss, stimulate hair growth, or just take better care of the hair you have, Keeps has you covered. Hair loss stops with Keeps. For a special offer to get started, go to keeps.com/moviecynic or click the link in the description. That's keeps.com/moviecynic. All right, let's go over the story first so you can get an idea of where these criticisms will be stemming from. Obvious spoilers incoming, but I know goddamn well if you're here to hear me shit on this thing. So
Let me talk to you.
Yeah, so basically Captain Marvel was responsible for a Kree civil war that left their planet Hala, like, kinda less habitable, I guess. So their current leader, who looks like a knockoff of Storm from the X-Men, is stealing all kinds of shit from other planets and galaxies like suns and water and atmosphere and what the fuck. I don't know, the apathy's already set in. This all happens against a horrendously obvious green screen that the actors are standing against. And it's a broken record at this point to mention how crazy it is that these films cost this much and look this bad at times. Pseudo-Storm finds a bangle in a space rock that is the matching bangle Miss Marvel has on Earth. What luck! A story commences. If anyone else besides Kamala and a handful of other people in the entire universe had that bangle, the multiverse would be doomed. Huh. Lucky that didn't work out any other way except the 1 in 10 trillion chance it did. Or everyone would be dead. At your convenience, film. Pseudostorm uses her new bangle paired with her hammer thing and rips a hole through space-time. During all this, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, and Monica Rambeau switch places with each other if they use their powers, regardless of where they are in the universe, because reasons concerning light or some shit. These abilities, of course, happen at the movie's convenience a number of times. It happens when any of them use their powers, but then later in the film they figure out to use them at the same time to cause a switch. Again, at your convenience, movie. Pseudostorm shows up to another planet to steal its water to restore Hala. You know, as mentioned. That planet happens to be the Skrull refugee colony, and this lady can go anywhere with ripping holes through space-time, but decides to go here because she's, well, vindictive, I guess? It's like the Scarlet Witch thing. Why didn't Wanda just go to a universe where she wouldn't have to kill anyone to get her way? Assuming Pseudostorm doesn't know about the multiverse, it's still a galaxy, so why doesn't she find another planet not filled with refugees of her former adversaries other than pure evil intent? Is this a tragic character or a completely common, lowbrow, boring, base level, I'm an evil person villain? You won't find a satisfying answer in the movie. Don't bother looking. I did it for you.
Brush your asses.
So this is the part where Captain Marvel admits that she has a nickname concerning her being the destroyer of fucking worlds or some shit because she's responsible for multiple genocides. But who cares? She's the good guy, and she scrunched her forehead, eliciting empathy. Or at least I'm assuming that's how the AI told the ever-robotic Brie Larson what emoting was, and this was her first attempt at it, ever. Pseudostorm was off to another planet, and this is where the fucking musical number comes in. Alright, look. So everyone here on this planet communicates by singing. Unless they don't. And this is on par with the dance scene in Spider-Man 3 level cringe. I think Spider-Man 3's scene hurt worse because I'm such a Spidey fan, and I remember I was hoping for an amazing third film, but this one means more. This is the state we're in regarding the MCU, which is bigger than just one superhero, so it has bigger ramifications. Here's a short clip. Try not to bash your head off anything.
But nonetheless, we ring the bells to usher in who breaks out.
Oh, hey, are you insane?
I think I could have done that better.
I thought it was good.
And now Pseudostorm wants Earth's sun to restore hers, and in the words of RoboCop,
We can't have that.
so the Marvels, as they call themselves, head on out to stop her at the behest of Nick Fury and Sword, and also just the general desire to not want everything on Earth to die. While traveling, they use a plot device that rivals the memory store in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, in the magnitude of how contrived it can get, where they put headsets on to fill each other in, as well as the audience, on some quick boilerplate backstories for each character, to pretend like these are fully formed characters we should be emotionally invested in. There's a quick montage of them practicing using their powers in unison, and after that short session of practice, they've perfected it for the rest of the film. Shit, that couldn't have been easier. At your convenience, movie. They face off against not Halle Berry, and apparently Captain Marvel has the power to fucking regenerate a sun? What? Yet she struggles battling Pseudostorm with the help of two other superpowered beings. That is, of course, until she doesn't struggle against her. At your convenience, movie. Also, there's this unbelievably cringy point in the story where Nick Fury's base is going down, and to save the crew, the cat from the first movie named Goose has a bunch of kittens. But of course, these things aren't really kittens, and they eat all the people so they can actually fit in and transport everyone onto the last escape pod. Yes. That's a real description of a real thing that happens in the movie. The first Captain Marvel movie was heavily criticized for the cat thing involving Nick Fury, so let's not just double down on it, they said. Let's go supernova. Pseudostorm gets the other bangle from Kamala Khan after playing possum with Captain Marvel, and she can't handle the power, so she explodes. But not before ripping a hole through space-time again. This time, in the multiverse. Even though fake Halle Berry couldn't handle the bangles, Miss Marvel totally can, and uses it to hit Rambeau with it so she can close the portal from the other side, of course. She says something like, I always knew I'd have to do it this way, even though this literally just happened. It's just a piss-poor line of dialogue to make sure the audience knew what was made obvious a moment prior when Monica said it had to be closed from the other side. Yet for some reason the characters are surprised when she does this, and Monica says it out loud for the audience just in case you didn't pick it up the first time she said it out loud. The MCU's writing has devolved to a point where they overplay and overemphasize what should be emotionally impactful moments for characters with dialogue instead, beating us over the head with what's right in front of us. Yet they'll keep things vague and undefined in other areas like powers, timelines, and basic character limitations. Absolutely amazing. So after this, Captain Marvel flies into Hala's sun and restores it. Yes, she fucking restores it, like no problem, boss. This character is so overpowered and boring, it's almost impressive in its futility. Miss Marvel meets Kate Bishop and asks her to join her Young Avengers squad, and I wasn't ready for what was next. Monica winds up on the exam table of Beast from X-Men in full comic book style CGI design.
That motherfucker back there is not real!
What struck me about this was how I scoffed instead of feeling excited. The way it plays out, it absolutely smacks of desperation, which is hard to ignore when it's finally being plastered all over mainstream media. Something I'll get to shortly here, but this reeked of desperation. It reeked of a studio changing the ending of a movie in the final hour in order to drum up excitement. A studio finally giving the audience exactly what it should have been all along. A studio finding out it's not invincible, that people don't just show up for the logo, that people demand quality of their movies that they're paying to see. Something I would have been excited about 3 years ago made me snicker instead and mock the studio for trying. I'm just one person, but judging by the box office figures, there are a lot of people who share my opinion. The Marvels is a film that barely registers as anything but pure consumer product, meant to be shat out at a moment's notice. It has no clear or consistent tone, and you'll get whiplash from it bouncing back and forth. This isn't even shocking, it was foreshadowed in its marketing. Originally meant to be a girl boss female empowerment movie, it was advertised as such and was a major part of the MCU's female propaganda piece. I mean, female empowerment half-hour special, honoring the women of the MCU. But it looks like, at some point in late 2022 or early 23, the studio heads finally figured out that they were in serious trouble. Oh, you know what it was? When Ant-Man Quantumania was destroyed by critics and it lost money in theaters. That was the eye-opener that whatever they were doing wasn't working, even though it was obvious to all of us, but, you know. So they shifted the release date and reshot again. The girl boss female empowerment angle wasn't really present, and the final product definitely was a film meant for everyone. The only problem is, it's a shitty film that's meant for everyone. Remember how tonally inconsistent 2016's Suicide Squad was? Or the theatrical version of Justice League? That's what this movie's like. Those films were also meant to be something else from their inception, and were changed via studio mandate at the last second, with Suicide Squad going from a dark and creepy action thriller to a wannabe villain version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. All with the same original footage, just done in the editing room, leaving a film that looks and sounds incoherent. Compare the first trailer of the Marvels to the last one. The last one pathetically used at least 20 seconds of Tony Stark and Steve Rogers to elicit some comparison between the Marvels team up and the Avengers. LOL. The Avengers had a consistent tone because it was made by a filmmaker with a clear vision. It utilized characters with unique and distinct sets of powers that had limitations and boundaries. And even though each character was larger than life and brought their own tone and personalities, the film had a consistent feel, look, and sound. The Marvels is nothing like that. The characters' powers are too ill-defined and bland to stand out from one another. 2 out of 3 of them wear similar costumes. And their powers are poorly defined and often feel virtually unlimited. If they're going for an Avengers tone, they missed it by a fucking country mile, baby. The editing leaves the pacing in shambles too. I have never watched a movie so short that felt so long. Weird because the movie moved rapidly. It clearly could not wait to get itself over with. If this movie was a living thing, it would kamikaze. But it's so boring and uninteresting you have to drag yourself to the finish line. And the editing contributes to the movie feeling so episodic instead of a feature film. It feels unimportant, with no satisfying conclusion, and also no tantalizing cliffhanger, despite the studio's last-second tag-ons and X-Men promises. And everyone seems so fucking bored, and who can blame them? We're probably watching the 40th take of the 5th reshoot of a scene wherever you are in the movie. Can you imagine the level of I don't give a shit they're probably feeling at that moment? Yeah, I know, most of them, especially Brie, are getting paid a lot of money, but I still almost understand. And when the actors on screen don't give a shit, why should the audience? Question to ponder, Kevin. Brie Larson gives a little bit more personality to Captain Marvel in some moments, and in others, she's worse than ever before. Her acting in a few scenes where she's supposed to be emoting is probably the worst work of her career. There's one scene in particular at the end of the second act that's genuinely terrible. Captain Marvel is a character the studio has apparently given up on, and so has Brie Larson. Carol Danvers is played as a blank stare that occasionally smirks. and is kind of like how Patrick Bateman describes himself.
I have all the characteristics of a human being. Flesh, blood, skin, hair, but not a single clear, identifiable emotion.
Yes, he has flesh, blood, bone. He comes off as a human like you, but he's simply not there. And neither is Brie Larson. Teyonah Parris is whatever as Monica Rambeau. Her one facial expression is apparently a perpetual state of surprise mixed with some worry. And I question what she can really do with this character. There's no depth here. Rambeau is pissed at Captain Marvel for abandoning her as a child, I guess. And I know this because it's the one thing the script uses in an attempt to make her an actual character and not just diversity superhero. Like honestly, what else am I supposed to say here? What is the depths of one Monica Rambeau? Is this a character that will have books written about her psychology? Or is this just a fucking poorly written character handed to an actor who's basically been given nothing to work with? In fact, most of these characters, including the villain, are undercooked and overserved. Captain Marvel has been in multiple films, yet she's completely underdeveloped as a character. Especially with the first film's character arc for her being that she realized she was superpowered and perfect all along, despite all those dang men in her way. It's a low-effort smoke and mirrors job to create empathy, a lazy writing technique. And once they took that element away from her character in this new film, she's gotten even more boring. Iman Vellani does her best as Miss Marvel to bring some fun to the movie. She's trying her best, and I thought she was annoying in the trailers, but quite frankly, she's probably the best part of the film. Samuel L. Jackson is great as always as Nick Fury, but again with the complete inconsistencies. This Nick Fury is funny, smooth, and seems to be in control. That is not the Nick Fury we last saw in Secret Invasion just a few months ago. So when does this movie take place? Because this is a completely different character than the Fury in Secret Invasion. Also, it's a Marvel movie, so it goes without saying it looks like shit most of the time. The VFX are awful, and it's no fault of the artists considering the time constraints we know Marvel Studios put them under. I wonder how quickly they had to do that X-Men mid-credit scene, honestly. From an artist standpoint, I feel awful for the crew of people having to put out shoddy work because of a studio demand instead of something they're proud of. They're not alone though. There are a lot of artists who worked on this movie whose work has been absolutely butchered, I'm sure. Because that's what the movie looks and sounds like, a hacked up mess. The exact result you'd expect to get from an oft-delayed, oft-reshot, oft-rethought production that the studio didn't even want to release. Something that would probably be too embarrassing for the company in the long term to shelve. Better to drop it and face the criticism and take the financial hit. WB got immense blowback for shelving the Batwoman movie. Imagine Disney trying to live down shelving the sequel to a billion-dollar original. Typically with this kind of review you'd hear cries of misogyny and yada yada. But look at the numbers. Disney is smart enough not to pull a WNBA and blame men for not showing up to the Marvels. No one is showing up to the Marvels. Marvel Studios and Hollywood as a whole can't deny the audience apathy with a victimhood shield anymore. Fans paying attention were aware of what was happening years ago. Congratulations, mainstream world. You caught up with the rest of us. GG's.